The Galactic Dominion prided itself on protocol. In its 10,000 years of existence, it had absorbed countless civilizations into its ranks through carefully choreographed first contact procedures. Admiral Vexthor stood on the bridge of the Harbinger, his flagship's sleek crystalline displays showing the small blue planet before them. His species' 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he processed the preliminary data. Curious, he chittered, mandibles clicking softly. They've achieved nuclear fission, primitive spaceflight, and basic quantum computing in mere centuries. The development curve is unprecedented. Around him, the bridge crew, representing 7 different species of the Dominion, continued their work with practiced efficiency. The Harbinger had emerged from fold space just beyond the orbit of this world's moon, their advanced stealth systems rendering them invisible to what they assumed were primitive scanning technologies. First Contact Specialist Zara, a member of the philosophical Illidari race, approached the Admiral. Her bioluminescent patterns shifted in what the crew recognized as concern. "Admiral, our deep scans are detecting anomalies. Their power signatures don't match their apparent technological level. And their orbital defense grid is primitive," interrupted Subcommander Crow, his scaled skin reflecting the bridge's ambient lighting. "Chemical propulsion weapons, basic kinetic shields. Nothing that could threaten a Dominion vessel." The Admiral raised a limb for silence. In his centuries of service, he'd overseen 57 first contacts. None had given him the unsettling feeling this one did. Something about these humans felt wrong. Their development was too rapid, their achievements too uneven. "Standard protocol," he announced finally. "We'll emerge from stealth above their primary military installation. The show of force typically prevents any unfortunate misunderstandings." The Harbinger decloaked over a facility in a region the humans called Nevada. Its massive form, nearly 3 kilometers in length, cast a shadow over the desert below. The Admiral expected the usual response, panic, followed by desperate attempts at communication, followed by submission. Instead, alarms blared across the bridge. "Multiple launches detected." Crow shouted. "They're not using their visible missile silos, hidden installations, everywhere. Energy signatures are impossible." Before the Admiral could respond, the first human weapon struck. It wasn't the crude nuclear device they'd expected. The projectile, moving at a significant fraction of light speed, struck the Harbinger's shields with devastating precision. The impact sent cascading failures through systems that had been considered impenetrable. "Impossible," the Admiral whispered. "Their technology, they couldn't have." "Sir." Zara's patterns were flashing in alarm now. "We're detecting quantum entanglement signatures. Their communications, they're not using the primitive radio waves we detected." That was a facade. More impacts rocked the ship. The humans had anticipated them, prepared for them. What the Dominion had dismissed as random orbital debris now revealed themselves as carefully positioned weapons platforms. The Harbinger's superior technology meant nothing against an enemy that had spent decades preparing specifically to counter it. "Emergency fold space," the Admiral commanded. "Get us out of here." "Fold space drive is offline," Crow reported, his usual confidence shattered. "The humans, they're using some kind of quantum field disruptor. We didn't even know such technology was possible." On the screens, new signatures appeared. Rising from hidden bases on Earth's moon, beneath its oceans, and from underground bunkers came humanity's real fleet. Not the primitive rockets and satellites the Dominion had observed, but ships of terrifying capability in completely alien design. "Send the emergency signal," Admiral Vexthor ordered, his voice heavy with the realization of their catastrophic mistake. "All Dominion vessels are to avoid this system. The humans, they're not primitive. They were waiting for us. All this time, they were waiting." As the Harbinger's crew frantically worked to restore their critical systems, a transmission cut through their supposedly unbreakable encryption. A human voice, calm and clear. Galactic Dominion vessel, this is Earth Defense Command. Your scans of our civilization were exactly as complete as we allowed them to be. Your arrival was exactly when we predicted it would be. And now, you have exactly one chance to survive. Surrender your vessel, or become an example of why humanity prefers to be left alone. The Admiral looked at the approaching Earth fleet, their designs unlike anything the Dominion had encountered in 10 millennia of space travel. He realized, with growing dread, that humanity hadn't been developing technology to catch up to the galaxy's standards. They had been developing technology specifically to exceed them. The choice before him was clear. And for the first time in Dominion history, a first contact would end not with the absorption of a new species into their ranks, but with the beginning of a fundamental shift in galactic power. "This is Admiral Vex Thor of the Galactic Dominion," he transmitted. "We surrender." The Dominion High Council's emergency session stretched into its third day. The Grand Chamber, with its soaring crystalline spires and hovering platforms for each member species, buzzed with barely contained panic. The holographic display at the center showed the Harbinger, their most advanced vessel, being escorted by human ships to a holding position near Mars. Supreme Chancellor Nintil, their tentacles writhing in agitation, addressed the assembled representatives. "The humans have made no demands. They've simply contained us. Our most sophisticated scans can't penetrate their ships' hulls. Their technology violates what we thought were universal principles." "How?" demanded Representative Core of the Warrior Nexus species. "How did we miss this? Our observation posts watched them for decades." A new figure stepped forward, Director Lyra of the Dominion Intelligence Service. Her holographic form flickered as she accessed restricted files. "We didn't miss it. We saw exactly what they wanted us to see. Consider their International Space Station. We thought it primitive. But our analysis now shows it was a deliberate performance." The chamber erupted in murmurs as Lyra continued. "They maintained two technological fronts. The public one, rockets, satellites, clumsy spacewalks, was theater. Meanwhile, beneath their oceans, inside their mountains, and on the dark side of their moon, they built something else entirely. The holographic display shifted to show human shipping records, industrial output, energy consumption. "Look at the patterns," Lyra explained. "For 50 years, massive resources disappeared into classified projects. We assumed inefficiency, corruption. Instead, they were building a fleet designed specifically to counter Dominion technology. But how did they know about us?" Chancellor Nintil demanded. "How did they know our capabilities?" A new voice cut through the chamber, Admiral Vex Thor, speaking from his containment on Earth via secured quantum channel. "They didn't. They prepared for everything. I've been allowed to see one of their facilities. The humans, they imagined thousands of possible first contact scenarios. They built weapons and defenses for each one. The display showed new images, vast underground complexes, experimental weapons, training facilities. They call it the Terminus Protocol," Vex Thor continued. "From the moment they split the atom, they knew they weren't alone. Instead of broadcasting their presence, they watched. Waited. Prepared. Their quantum field disruptors," Lyra added, "weren't designed specifically for our fold space drives. They created them to counter any possible form of faster-than-light travel. Their weapons platforms don't target our specific shield frequencies, they fire projectiles that exist partially outside normal spacetime, bypassing any possible defense." Representative Core slammed a clawed fist down. "Impossible. No species could advance so far in isolation. That's what makes them dangerous," Lyra countered. "They developed everything independently. Their technology isn't based on Dominion principles because they never learned them. They found their own paths, their own solutions. We can't counter their weapons because they operate on principles we never imagined." The chamber fell silent as new data streamed in. Human ships had been detected near every major Dominion world, vessels that had somehow arrived before the Harbinger's warning could be transmitted. They had mapped the Dominion's territory, marked its weaknesses, all while maintaining the facade of a primitive species taking its first steps into space. "They're not aggressive," Admiral Vexthor's transmission continued. "But they are prepared. I've spoken with their leaders. They knew first contact would come eventually. They knew it would likely be with a species that considered them inferior. So they built their civilization like a fortress, and their technology like a sword." Chancellor Ninetill's tentacles curled in resignation. "What do they want?" "Nothing," Vexthor replied. "That's what makes this situation unprecedented. They don't want our territory, our technology, or our resources. They simply want to ensure that no alien power ever threatens Earth. And they've demonstrated, quite thoroughly, that they have the means to enforce that desire." The council chamber erupted in debate, but the truth was undeniable. The Dominion, for the first time in its history, faced a species that had outmaneuvered them before first contact had even occurred. Humanity hadn't just prepared for war, they had prepared for victory. As the council argued, Earth's ships maintained their silent vigil. In orbit around every major Dominion world, they served not as a threat, but as a reminder. The galaxy's balance of power hadn't just shifted, it had been transformed by a species that had treated first contact not as a diplomatic milestone, but as a potential extinction-level threat. And they had prepared accordingly. In the depths of the Himalayan mountains, Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the assembled representatives of the Dominion Diplomatic Corps. The vast chamber, carved from living rock and lined with quantum crystalline displays, hummed with advanced technology that had remained hidden from alien eyes for decades. "Welcome to Phoenix Base," she announced, her voice echoing through the cavernous space. "What you're about to see represents 50 years of human preparation, cooperation, and technological development. This is the true face of Earth's defense program." The alien diplomats, a carefully selected group from various Dominion species, stared in barely concealed shock at the holographic displays surrounding them. Base after base appeared, underwater cities beneath the Pacific, lunar facilities hidden in perpetual shadow, asteroid installations disguised as mining operations. "The Phoenix Project began in 1972, Chen continued, walking through the three-dimensional display. "When we detected your first stealth observation posts at the edge of our solar system. Yes, we detected them. Your stealth technology is impressive, but it creates subtle gravitational distortions. Distortions we were looking for, because we assumed we weren't alone." Zara, the Illidari first contact specialist, stepped forward. Her bioluminescent patterns shifted in what humans had learned was profound curiosity. "But your public space program, the chemical rockets, the primitive satellites." Chen smiled. "Operation Looking Glass. A carefully maintained illusion. While the world watched astronauts bounce around on the moon using 1960s technology, we were already establishing bases on Mars using quantum tunneling transportation. Every public failure, every exploded rocket, every setback, all carefully staged to maintain the deception." The displays shifted to show vast shipyards hidden within Mercury's polar craters, shielded from both observation and the sun's radiation. "The Mercury Forge," Chen explained. "Where we built our first fleet of deep space vessels. We used the planet's core as both power source and raw material. Your sensor saw only a barren rock because we redirected every scan, replaced every image." "Impossible," chittered one of the Dominion's chief scientists. "The energy requirements alone." "Zero-point energy extraction," Chen interrupted. "Developed in 2031. We solved the quantum foam stability issue by approaching it from a completely different direction than your civilization. That's the advantage of developing in isolation, we found our own paths, unbound by established theories." The next display showed Earth's true orbital defense grid, tens of thousands of platforms disguised as debris, each carrying weapons that could tear apart spacetime itself. We call them reality crackers, Chen said, noting the aliens' discomfort. They don't just defeat shields, they temporarily alter the fundamental laws of physics in a localized area. Your ship's defenses couldn't have worked because, for a fraction of a second, the very concept of energy shields became impossible within the affected space. Zara's patterns had shifted to what humans recognized as fear. Your species, you spent all this time preparing for war. No, Chen corrected. We spent all this time preparing for survival. Look at your own history, how many species did the Dominion peacefully absorb after demonstrating overwhelming technological superiority? We couldn't take that chance. So we made sure that when first contact came, we would be the ones holding the technological advantage. The displays shifted again, showing the true extent of human advancement. Antimatter production facilities that could power entire continents. Quantum computation arrays that could model the entire galaxy's gravitational fields in real time. Weapons that could unmake matter itself. Nothing, Vexthor replied. That's what makes this situation unprecedented. They don't want our territory, our technology, or our resources. They simply want to ensure that no alien power ever threatens Earth. And they've demonstrated, quite thoroughly, that they have the means to enforce that desire. The council chamber erupted in debate, but the truth was undeniable. The Dominion, for the first time in its history, faced a species that had outmaneuvered them before first contact had even occurred. Humanity hadn't just prepared for war, they had prepared for victory. As the council argued, Earth's ships maintained their silent vigil. In orbit around every major Dominion world, they served not as a threat, but as a reminder. The galaxy's balance of power hadn't just shifted, it had been transformed by a species that had treated first contact not as a diplomatic milestone, but as a potential extinction-level threat. And they had prepared accordingly. In the depths of the Himalayan mountains, Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the assembled representatives of the Dominion Diplomatic Corps. The vast chamber, carved from living rock and lined with quantum crystalline displays, hummed with advanced technology that had remained hidden from alien eyes for decades. "Welcome to Phoenix Base," she announced, her voice echoing through the cavernous space. "What you're about to see represents 50 years of human preparation, cooperation, and technological development. This is the true face of Earth's defense program." The alien diplomats, a carefully selected group from various Dominion species, stared in barely concealed shock at the holographic displays surrounding them. Base after base appeared, underwater cities beneath the Pacific, lunar facilities hidden in perpetual shadow, asteroid installations disguised as mining operations. The Phoenix project began in 1972, Chen continued, walking through the three-dimensional display. "When we detected your first stealth observation posts at the edge of our solar system. Yes, we detected them. Your stealth technology is impressive, but it creates subtle gravitational distortions. Distortions we were looking for, because we assumed we weren't alone." Zara, the Illidari first contact specialist, stepped forward. Her bioluminescent patterns shifted in what humans had learned was profound curiosity. "But your public space program, the chemical rockets, the primitive satellites." Chen smiled. "Operation Looking Glass. A carefully maintained illusion. While the world watched astronauts bounce around on the moon using 1960s technology, we were already establishing bases on Mars using quantum tunneling transportation. Every public failure, every exploded rocket, every setback, all carefully staged to maintain the deception." The displays shifted to show vast shipyards hidden within Mercury's polar craters, shielded from both observation and the sun's radiation. "The Mercury Forge," Chen explained. "Where we built our first fleet of deep space vessels. We used the planet's core as both power source and raw material. Your sensor saw only a barren rock because we redirected every scan, replaced every image." "Impossible," chittered one of the Dominion's chief scientists. "The energy requirements alone." "Zero-point energy extraction," Chen interrupted. "Developed in 2031. We solved the quantum foam stability issue by approaching it from a completely different direction than your civilization. That's the advantage of developing in isolation. We found our own paths, unbound by established theories. The next display showed Earth's true orbital defense grid, tens of thousands of platforms disguised as debris, each carrying weapons that could tear apart spacetime itself. We call them reality crackers, Chen said, noting the aliens' discomfort. They don't just defeat shields, they temporarily alter the fundamental laws of physics in a localized area. Your ship's defenses couldn't have worked because, for a fraction of a second, the very concept of energy shields became impossible within the affected space. Zara's patterns had shifted to what humans recognized as fear. Your species, you spent all this time preparing for war. No, Chen corrected. We spent all this time preparing for survival. Look at your own history. How many species did the Dominion peacefully absorb after demonstrating overwhelming technological superiority? We couldn't take that chance. So we made sure that when first contact came, we would be the ones holding the technological advantage. The displays shifted again, showing the true extent of human advancement. Antimatter production facilities that could power entire continents. Quantum computation arrays that could model the entire galaxy's gravitational fields in real time. Weapons that could unmake matter itself. But here's what you need to understand, Chen continued, her tone softening. We don't want war. We never did. Everything you see here, every weapon, every defense, every technological marvel, was created for one purpose, to ensure that humanity's first contact with alien life wouldn't be its last. The chamber filled with new holographic images, thousands of other designs, other weapons, other defenses. We didn't just prepare for the Dominion, Chen explained. We prepared for everything. Hive minds, energy beings, fourth-dimensional entities. Every first contact scenario humanity could imagine, we developed countermeasures for it. One of the Dominion diplomats, a crystalline being from their outer regions, chimed in harmonically. You speak of peace, yet show us weapons that could tear the galaxy apart. Chen nodded. Because true peace comes from strength. The Dominion's philosophy has always been to approach new species from a position of technological superiority. We simply ensured that when you found us, that position would be reversed. The displays went dark, leaving only the soft glow of essential systems. So now, Chen concluded, we offer you a genuine choice. Not the illusion of choice the Dominion typically offers to primitive species, but a real one. We can be allies, equals, sharing knowledge and exploring the galaxy together. Or we can be adversaries, with humanity proving just how thoroughly we've prepared for that possibility. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just achieved technological parity with the Dominion, they had surpassed them in many ways. And they had done it all in secret, waiting for this very moment. The galaxy's balance of power hadn't just shifted, it had been transformed by a species that had treated first contact not as an opportunity for submission, but as a challenge to be overcome. And they had overcome it so thoroughly that the Dominion's only real choice was to adapt to a new reality, one where humanity was not just a player in galactic politics, but a power that had rewritten the rules of the game before even joining it. The Dominion High Council's emergency broadcast echoed across 1,000 worlds. Supreme Chancellor Ninetil's message was interrupted mid-transmission as a new force emerged from the darkness between stars. The Nexus Liberation Fleet, led by the militant faction of the Dominion that refused to accept humanity's terms, had launched their desperate gambit. Deep within the Quantum Command Center beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, Fleet Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with calm determination. The Liberation Fleet's numbers were impressive, over 3,000 capital ships, each bristling with what the Dominion considered their most advanced weapons. They're following expected Pattern 7, Chen noted to her staff. Exactly as the simulations predicted. Activate Operation Checkmate. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden defenses stirred to life. What the Dominion rebels saw as a straightforward assault on a single star system was about to become something else entirely. The Liberation Fleet's commander, War Leader Kor, stood proudly on his flagship's bridge. "These humans think their tricks and deceptions make them superior," he growled to his crew. "Today we show them true Dominion power." His confidence lasted exactly 3 minutes and 17 seconds. The first sign that something was wrong came when a third of his fleet's weapons systems simultaneously deactivated. The quantum-encrypted commands controlling their targeting systems had been compromised months ago, during the initial diplomatic exchanges. "Impossible!" Kor roared as reports flooded in. "They couldn't have broken our encryption." "Sir," his technology officer reported, mandibles clicking in distress, "they didn't break it. They wrote their own codes into it. During the peace talks. Every handshake protocol, every data exchange, they were rewriting our base systems." The second phase of humanity's response came from what appeared to be empty space. Thousands of microscopic wormholes opened throughout the Liberation Fleet's formation. Each one was just large enough to allow through a stream of specialized particles that existed in a quantum state that made conventional shields meaningless. Ships began losing power, their advanced energy systems disrupted by what human scientists had dubbed probability inverters. Technology that worked perfectly according to Dominion science simply stopped working. "They're not fighting us," Kor's science officer realized with growing horror. "They're changing the rules of how our technology functions. It's like they're rewriting the laws of physics in localized spaces." The third phase revealed why humanity had allowed the Liberation Fleet to penetrate so deeply into the solar system. Hidden in the Kuiper Belt, thousands of automated platforms activated. Each one generated a field that subtly altered gravitational constants. The rebel fleet found itself caught in a web of intersecting gravity fields, their carefully plotted attack vectors becoming a maze of conflicting forces. But it was the fourth phase that truly demonstrated why humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment. "Deploy the Prometheus Protocol," Chen ordered. Across Earth's surface, massive hidden installations powered up. The combined energy output of a dozen artificial quantum stars channeled through technology that had been developed in secret, tested in shadow, and perfected in anticipation of this very moment. Space itself seemed to ripple around the Liberation Fleet. Ships that had been scattered by gravitational distortions suddenly found themselves sharing the same space-time coordinates, not colliding, but phasing through each other in ways that violated what the Dominion considered possible. "What are they doing to us?" Kor demanded as his flagship systems reported cascading impossibilities. The answer came in a transmission from Fleet Admiral Chen herself: "We're not destroying your ships, War Leader Kor. We're separating them, every atom, every particle, and reconstructing them. Your crew will be unharmed. Your technology will be disabled. And you will learn why humanity spent so long hiding its true capabilities." The process was beautiful in its complexity. Each rebel ship was enveloped in fields that gently disassembled them at the quantum level, reconstructing them in a power-down state, their crews preserved but their weapons and drive systems transformed into inert matter. Within 20 minutes, the largest fleet the Dominion had ever assembled hung motionless in space, 3,000 ships rendered harmless without a single death. "Broadcast on all frequencies," Chen commanded. "To all Dominion worlds and species. What you have witnessed is not meant as an act of war, but as a demonstration. Humanity's technology and defenses were developed not out of aggression, but out of prudence. We offer peace between equals. But if forced to fight, we will do so in ways you cannot predict or counter." In the silence that followed, as the defeated Liberation Fleet hung powerless in space, the galaxy began to understand. Humanity hadn't just prepared for first contact, they had revolutionized their understanding of physics, technology, and warfare itself. They had spent decades appearing primitive while developing ways to fundamentally alter how technology functioned. The message was clear: humanity preferred peace, but they had mastered the art of war in ways that made conventional conflict obsolete. They didn't need to destroy their enemies, they could simply rewrite the rules that allowed their enemies to fight in the first place. War Leader Kor, standing on his powerless bridge, watching systems that couldn't possibly be interfered with simply stop existing, finally understood. The humans hadn't been developing weapons. They had been developing new laws of physics. And they had kept them secret until the perfect moment to demonstrate why challenging humanity was, quite simply, futile. 1 year after the Liberation Fleet incident, the Galactic Conference convened in a location that would have been unthinkable months earlier, Earth's Olympus Assembly, a magnificent structure suspended in the thermosphere above Mount Everest. Representatives from over 500 species gathered, including former Dominion members and newly contacted civilizations drawn by humanity's revelation. Fleet Admiral Chen, now serving as Earth's primary diplomatic representative, stood before the assembled delegates. The chamber's quantum crystalline walls shifted with real-time translations in thousands of languages, a testament to humanity's mastery of communication technology. For centuries, she began, galactic civilization operated on a simple premise: technological superiority dictated policy. The Dominion expanded by finding less advanced species and offering them a choice that wasn't really a choice at all: join or be left behind. Former Supreme Chancellor Ninetil, now serving as a regular delegate, rippled their tentacles in acknowledgement. We believed it was the natural order. The strong guide the weak. We never imagined that a supposedly primitive species could rewrite that order, Chen finished. But that's exactly why we kept our advances hidden. Humanity learned early in its history that apparent weakness can be the greatest strength. While you watched us fumble with chemical rockets, we were reaching into the fabric of reality itself. The assembled delegates watched as holographic displays showed the transformation of human civilization. Hidden cities emerging from beneath the oceans. Massive space stations declocking from dimensional pockets. Shipyards appearing from within gas giants where they had been concealed for decades. But today isn't about showing power, Chen continued. It's about sharing knowledge. Humanity developed its technology in isolation, finding solutions that the Dominion never considered. Our quantum mechanics evolved differently. Our understanding of spacetime took paths your scientists never explored. And now, we offer to share these discoveries. The chamber erupted in excited discussion as Chen revealed humanity's proposal, a new galactic coalition, founded not on technological superiority but on mutual exchange and respect. Earth would share its advances, but with safeguards to prevent their weaponization. We hid our progress out of necessity, Chen explained. We developed weapons that could reshape reality because we had to be ready for anything. But our greatest achievements weren't in warfare, they were in understanding the universe itself. The displays shifted to show Earth's greatest scientific triumph, the Universal Translation Matrix, a technology that didn't just translate languages but facilitated true understanding between vastly different forms of consciousness. Crystalline beings could comprehend the thoughts of organic species. Energy entities could communicate with silicon-based life forms. This is humanity's true gift to the galaxy, Chen announced. Not our weapons or our defenses, but our drive to understand, to connect, to bridge gaps that seem unbridgeable. From his position in the chamber, War Leader Kor, now a prominent voice for reform within his species, spoke up. You could have conquered us. Your technology, your weapons, the Liberation Fleet proved you could have dominated the galaxy. Why choose this path instead? Chen smiled. Because conquest was never our goal. Everything we built, every advance we kept hidden, was for one purpose, to ensure that when humanity finally joined the galactic community, we could do so as equals, not subjects. We wanted to guarantee that Earth's voice would be heard, not through force, but through respect. The conference chamber filled with expressions of agreement, some verbal, some telepathic, some expressed through color changes or gravitational pulses. Species that had once been bound by Dominion protocols were embracing new ways of interaction, new possibilities for cooperation. The age of forced advancement is over, Chen declared. The time of hidden progress has passed. Together, we can explore the true frontiers of science and understanding. Earth's technology will be shared, not as a weapon or a tool of dominance, but as a foundation for something greater. As the delegates began their deliberations on the new coalition structure, Chen reflected on humanity's journey. They had prepared for war but achieved peace. They had developed weapons but would use them to protect, not conquer. Most importantly, they had proven that a species' true strength lies not in its ability to dominate others, but in its capacity to surprise, adapt, and ultimately choose wisdom over power. The galaxy was entering a new era. The old hierarchies of technological supremacy were being replaced by networks of mutual exchange and respect. And humanity, the species that had hidden its light for so long, would help illuminate the way forward. Not through force or fear, but through the very qualities that had allowed them to surprise the galaxy in the first place: innovation, determination, and the wisdom to know when to reveal their true strength. The age of deception was over. The age of collaboration had begun. And the galaxy would never be the same.